Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Indie Author Show. I'm Sue Miller, your host, and this is my second live show. So a little bit excited and nervous, but we did okay the last time, so hopefully we do well this time. But I have a guest in the studio with me, so it's not just me chatting away to you. It will be Phil Burrows. Welcome, Phil.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's you've been here before with me, but we've always recorded the shows. So yeah, it's been a while since we've had you on.
Yeah, it's a couple of months at least.
Yeah. So we have lots to talk to you about, actually. This is the Wrexham Carnival of Words week. I say that too fast. Wrexham Carnival of Words. It's our week of the spoken word, poetry, literature in Wrexham. We've been having a fantastic week, and we're halfway through. So Phil and I are going to talk to you a little bit about that. But just a reminder that the Indie Author Show does air Wednesdays fortnightly on Kellen FM, and you can find us on Facebook at the Indie Author Show. And we usually talk to new writers who have become authors and talk to them about their journey and some of the obstacles that they've met and overcome, and a little bit about their books. So Phil, my guest today, is actually an author himself, so we'll talk a little bit about his series, his sci-fi series, but mostly today we're going to talk about the Carnival of Words, and we're going to give you a bit of just some tips and things that you might run across, some issues that you might run across when you're a new writer trying to become an author. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about the Carnival of Words, which Phil and I are both on the committee for that. This is our fourth year doing the Carnival of Words, and you can tell by the audience numbers that it's getting more and more popular.
Oh, it's definitely getting bigger and bigger, yes. Yeah. And the calibre of authors you're getting, they're getting bigger and better.
Let's just chat a little bit about the ones that have been in the past. We won't spend a lot of time on that, but just to tell you, the listeners, a little bit about who's been here. We had you and I haven't been to all of them.
No.
But we've been to some of them. Last night, for example, was Vasim Khan, and you and I both really, really enjoyed him.
His personality, and he was so entertaining.
Yeah.
If that comes through in his books, and we bought the first book last night, it'll be a great read because he was so interesting.
Yeah, I bought one of his books as well. I didn't buy the first one, mostly because by the time I got through the queue, they were gone. But he's got a new one coming. I think it's 4 or 5 now. 4, I think 4. Would you say 4 books?
4, I think. Yeah.
But it's his books are somewhat young adult, but adults can read them as well. They're maybe they flow maybe a bit quicker than your typical deep down crime novel. And now we haven't read them, but they do suit young adult audiences, is what I'm trying to say. And it's based on Detective Chopra. And the Baby Ganesh detective agency, and he's got a baby elephant as kind of his little sidekick, isn't it? So I'm not quite sure how the baby elephant ties into the crime solving, but we'll find out.
I think one of the interesting things was for me when we were listening to him is his books are based in India, but he brings a lot of the Indian culture through, a lot of the history from the British occupation there and all that kind of stuff. And when he was talking about it last night, if those kind of things are in the book, it'll be a very rich book to read, where you come away not just being entertained, it's an uplifting book, everyone agreed with that, but also you'll learn something, and I love books where I come away learning something as well.
Yeah. Now, Vaz said, sorry, I feel like I'm going to have to cough, so you keep talking.
But yeah, I mean, Vaz was absolutely very entertaining, and he went through every book that he'd written, starting off with the first one where the crown jewels are stolen in India, and he gave us a slight background description about that, and he actually told us how the Indians feel, because when the British did rule over India, we did sort of appropriate certain goods and still have them, one of them being the big diamond in the crown jewels. So he was sort of talking about that as well from a cultural point of view. So it was very interesting. So there's a lot of history in these books. But
Well, one of the things I was going to say is that he was born here.
Yeah, he was born in London, yeah.
So he went over to India. Both his parents are from India, but they came here years ago, and he was born here. But he went there kind of not really knowing, kind of as a British person, really.
It was a culture shock to himself. Yeah. He admitted that. Yeah, absolutely. He was in his mid-20s, I think, and he stayed there for 10 years.
But he's always been writing, and he actually, what did he say? Something about...
He had 7 books that were rejected.
Yeah, and it took him, did he say 20 years?
Yeah, over 20 years, 7 books. And he admitted having gone back and read them. Yeah, the first one was dire.
Yeah.
But yeah, he persevered, and it's working for him now. It's great.
He said something quirky was bringing the baby elephant into it, but that all ties in. It was really interesting what he was talking about when he was in India his first time, and one of the things he saw amongst all the chaos of the driving and the cars and the rickshaws and the honking of the horns, and then he saw this massive elephant, and that image always stuck in his head. And I think that's kind of where he brought the elephant in. So anyways, that was Wasim Khan, and I highly suggest that you look up his books. Now let's talk about some of the others that were there. We had Phil Rickman. Now you were at Phil Rickman.
Yeah.
So I wasn't at that one. So tell us a little bit about that one.
He was a very interesting chap. He did get sidetracked a little bit because he had so much to try and impart and information to tell you. He does like supernatural books. He often gets sort of put into the horror section, which he prefers not to be in. He doesn't want to be competing directly with Stephen King because his are more supernatural rather than slasher horror kind of things.
Right.
And he talked about lots of history around the areas, the fact that in Wales there's a lot of supernatural history, a lot of folklore going on.
Oh.
And he sort of, he brought all this down. It was a really interesting chap. And again, if this interesting sort of personality comes through in the book, then that'll be a great read as well.
Did he talk a little bit about his radio program? Was it Radio 4?
He did, yeah. He's been doing that for donkey's years, which he wouldn't exactly give a number to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he briefly mentioned it. He talked about some of the shows he'd been out on.
He does fill the shelf. If anybody wants to, I guess fill the shelf is basically your bookshelf. But he's doesn't he write about exorcisms and stuff like that? Yeah,
it's one of the things he says it's very hard to find any information about because the Catholic Church will deny that these clergy who do this that exist at all.
Right.
That department, and apparently the department changes names frequently to throw people off.
Okay. That sounds like a story in itself.
Absolutely, and it was very interesting. But of course, he wouldn't elaborate too much because he wants you to read the books.
Right. Another one that you and I both were at was Nikki French. Now Nikki French writes crime, but they're actually a husband and wife team. So we were both very interested to hear how do they write their, and you and I both came away saying, I still don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who is a writer who's listening to the show, they will know that if someone reads through your stuff, like an early draft, and they go, yeah, I don't like this and I want to change this, doesn't matter how much you trust them, how much you love them, if it's your partner, it still hurts a little bit because that stuff you put on paper is your little baby. Yeah. So it does hurt. And what they were saying was one of them will start the book off the first chapter, they'll get halfway through maybe, and then they'll email it to the other. And they work in separate rooms. One works in the attic, one works in a wooden building in the garden. Mm-hmm. I won't say shed because you'll just think of like a B&Q 99 shed. Yeah. I'm sure it was a nice grand wooden building. And then they will then go over it, change as much as they feel they need to, and then send it back. But they're both working not as their own individual styles, but they work under a persona of Nikki French. Because they have their own unique styles, which are completely separate. But then they designed a whole style under the name of Nikki French.
Right.
Amazing system.
And how they were able to do, I'm sure it seems quite smooth now. It was 21 books that they've done now as Nikki French. Now, it's Nikki Gerard and Sean French.
Yeah.
So, husband and wife team. So I'm sure that they had some teething problems at the beginning, but they seemed to, they kept even though we asked them questions and we're kind of querying how they did this, they seem to say, oh yes, we do this and we trust each other and so on. But I don't know. But they're obviously successful, so they must be able to do it. And I was saying to you, Phil, off air, was the fact that other than one series, all of their books, other than I think there's 5 in this one series, but the rest of them are all standalone books. So it's not like they've created a character and then they can write about that character. It's a new character every book.
Yeah, which is harder work again. I mean, doing a series is easy in many respects because you've already built the characters. People will come into the book and they know who the characters are. And life's a lot easier, but building it from scratch every time.
Well, I've read Nikki French before, but this was before I realised that they were 2 people. So now I'm going to go back and read a more recent book and just see if I can tell the difference. But they said that people do try, and they will never reveal which one wrote which part, because, again, that they want to be seen as Nikki French, so one person. But, yeah, I want to see if I can just the detective in me to see if I can figure out, this was written by one person, this was written by the other. But they assure us that we shouldn't be able to tell the difference. So let's see. Who else have we?
We've had this children's story time.
Yes.
So we had a plethora of young children's picture book authors come in, and that was great. They came into the library and they were reading to the children, really kept them entertained. I popped in to see that, and they were brilliant. Yeah,
we had, we'll just do a little bit of name dropping. We had Jude Lennon, who's one of our cohorts as well, and Jude does storytelling for a living, and Jackie Bloor as well. And Jackie is from Wrexham, Jude's from Liverpool. And Jackie does storytelling, and so they were brilliant. And then we had, and Jude's done several children's books, actually. She goes into schools a lot. But then we had some new authors, Faye Evans, who has Fred the Fire Sneezing Dragon. And then we had Debs Green Jones, and she has What a Week with Dottie, Dottie the Dinosaur. And we had Claire Capper, whose her book is Arnie the Armadillo. So those 3 came in with their first time.
They did marvellous. And the children loved it. It was great.
We find that our children's authors are tending to, I think this is kind of a throwback from Jude, because she's always had Lammy and Flossie as part of her sort of little lamb tales. But now the new authors that are coming on board are creating a mascot, because that engages the children even more, doesn't it?
It does.
And your partner in crime, Kath, she loves the
She is the mascot thief, yes. I mean, I'm a children's author as well. I have a children's book and I have a mascot. It's mandatory. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So well, when we come back, we'll before the end of the show, we'll definitely talk about your books, what you've been doing. But just thought we'd give you a little bit of a flavour. We did have, neither you nor I were at this one, Aled Lewis Evans, who's brilliant poet, and he's a Welsh author, and he apparently had a fantastic show. It was at the same time as Vaseem Khan, so we couldn't be in 2 places at once, but he had about 70 people at his event where he presented in English and Welsh, and so I hear that went really,
talented
really well.
Chap, yeah,
he is very talented. I love Aled. So and we had that's just one more thing we'll just chat quickly. Neither you or I were at this one. Was the Green Fingers and Gardens, isn't it?
Bellis
Brothers
in Holt,
in Holt, and we were speaking with Dave McCall, and he said it went really well. So they had kind of some local gardeners and some local authors on gardening.
It was a crossover event of books and gardening.
Yeah.
But it went down really well.
And they had a panel.
Yeah.
So that went really well too. So all the feedback we're getting has been brilliant. One I did forget to mention was Monday night was. It was a combination. It was World Book Night, but it was also Shakespeare's birthday. And at the library, we had an event called Shakespeare Hot Under the Collar. And it was the first time this group called the Company of Voices has performed. And they did sort of a few excerpts from some of Shakespeare's most popular plays, and they were brilliant. Oh, gosh, we had quite a full house for that one as well, and really, really enjoyed it. So watch out for the Company of Voices. I'm sure we're going to have them back next year. So, Phil, let's just talk a little bit about the events that are coming up for the rest of the week. And people, if you are within striking distance of Wrexham, please feel free to come along to any of these events, except for the one that's this evening, because it's sold out. The Murder Mystery event, very popular, isn't
Very,
it?
very popular.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are a book lover, which you would have to be if you're listening to this radio station, then you should really come to these events, because reading a book is a very personal thing, and you like to know who the author is because it makes the book a richer environment as well. So coming to meet the authors, it makes a difference to how you read that book in the future and any of their books.
And it's very informal. The Carnival of Words is a very informal type of literary festival, if you want to call it that, because you can just chat. We just sit around and we chat to the authors, and they do book signings and take photographs, and it's all very low key. There's no sort of highbrow security or anything.
They're all lovely. I mean, everyone we've had, I mean, this is my third year now of coming to the carnival, and everyone I've met, they've all been so nice.
Yeah.
They're all down-to-earth people, and it's just been great. But we've still got some great events on. I mean, as you said, tonight it's fully booked. That's the Murder Mystery Night, so next year, get your tickets in early. But then on
70 people coming to that one, which is at the library, but it's kind of reached our capacity.
Yeah. But we've got Emma Carroll coming in Thursday morning, I believe.
No, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, so Thursday, so after lunch. And she's a young author, young adult author.
Yeah.
Now, Kath's read one of her books. I haven't had time to read it yet. And she's liked it. She said it's a really nice book, nice author.
She talks about World War II and she's... I haven't read her book either, but again, it's a very intimate type of venue when we have them at the Wrexham Library. So that's at 1 o'clock, and if you want, you can just come down to the library and buy your ticket there.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So,
I think the YA, the young adult genre, is growing year on year, I think, and I think it's great because it does introduce young adults to mainstream literature. They'll progress through, and I think it's absolutely fantastic.
And Emma actually is going out to the schools in the morning.
Yeah.
I think she's going to Overton, and I think a couple of schools are joining.
They've
together.
shared it, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah, and Vasim Khan actually is at
the prison.
The prison this morning. Was at the prison, the North Wales prison. I guess.
Yeah, the one in Wrexham.
Berwyn, yeah. They don't just come in and kind of perform for the public. We try to get them involved in other community events as well. We talked about Nikki French. We had a new venue that's opened in Wrexham called TAUK, and that was held there. So that's kind of a combination venue for the arts, and it's got local crafts and local businesses are part of that venue as well. So that's an up-and-coming new venue, but a lot of them are either held at Glyndŵr University or at Wrexham Library. What have we got coming up here now about Mark Davis? You've got the thing in front of you.
The balloonist, I mean, if people at first see Mark Davis, King of All Balloons, they might think he makes balloon animals, but he's actually talking about the history of ballooning and the story of a particular guy, James Sadler. I'm not going to give too much away and say too much. Come to the event. Ballooning's one of those things that you see them in the sky, you go, oh, that's pretty. But if you think about the history of it, the first people who started doing these things, just in a bag of wind with no technology, it was, well, it would have been scary.
Yeah.
By the seat of your pants kind of flying, really.
Yeah. So that's Friday at 2 o'clock at the library. I should say that if anybody wants to, you may not have a pen and paper beside you, so just go to www.wrexhamcarnivalofwords.com. Phil actually maintains the website, so thank you, Phil. But you just go on there and you can see the whole lineup of events, where they are, what time they are, and the price. So, just go on to wrexhamcarnivalofwords.com. Another one that is tomorrow, which if you're into poetry, you might like. It's called Viva Voice with at Ciceran, which is a pub in Wrexham, and it's an open mic night. Les Barker, if anybody knows Les Barker, apparently he's very, very funny.
Yeah, highly respected. Lots of people have said really great things. I've never seen him myself. So.
No. So that's Thursday night at 7:30 at Ciceran, and that's a free event actually. So if anybody's into, and it is open mic, so if you want to go along to that. And we've got the reading of the Wrexham Workers poem, which Peter Reid, who's a fabulous supporter of the Carnival of Words, he is a great poet and playwright and a fantastic character in his own right. So he every year goes around and collects snippets from different businesses, and this year one of them he's collected from is the football club.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And then he pulls all this information together and writes a final poem. So he's going to be presenting that at the start of Viva Voice at Ciceran, at Ciceran on Thursday night. So if you want to be entertained, definitely go along and listen to Peter Reid. Okay, then we'll move on to Friday night, which is brilliant. Let's talk a little bit about these.
Well, it's going to be an amazing
night.
I mean, it has been the last two I've been to.
Yeah.
You get a gaggle of authors from, the historic authors, and they will fight for their era. Not physically, we don't chuck them in an arena.
Not yet, anyways.
It's not like Thunderdome or anything. But they will argue that their era is better than anyone else's era. We've had so much fun with this in the past. It's just going to be an amazing night. And for £8, is it 4 or 5 authors you get?
Yeah, I think you've got 5 authors so they do their little bit, which is probably about an hour. They each have, I think, 8 to 10 minutes to talk to the audience about their particular era that they write about and why we should vote for that, why it's the best era. So it's really, really fun. And then we have just a short break, and then the sort of headline author this year is Robin Young. So if anybody's into historical fiction, you will know who Robin Young is. And then it's kind of an interview session with Robin Young. So you are kind of getting 2 events for the price of one on that evening. And that's at Glyndŵr University. And you can buy the tickets at the door or, again, go to the website and find out. So we're really looking forward to that. And thanks to Dave McCall, who's a local historical fiction author himself, and he always pulls this together every year, and it's one of the highlights of our week. So just before we leave the Carnival of Words, because we have probably spent about half an hour talking about it, but we are very passionate about it, and we believe that if you are a writer or an author, and if you are, within 30 miles of Wrexham, you really should plan to come, because it is a great opportunity for you to meet these authors, talk to them, hear their stories, and be inspired. But you also are going to meet other aspiring writers at these events. So it really is a no-brainer. It's very, very inexpensive to attend. Our events range from free to £5 or £8. So we try to keep it very affordable because the point is that we want to make it accessible for writers and for the community to attend. So we spend a lot of time working on it. We'll be having, we'll start planning next year's, which is usually around the same time of year. It depends on when Easter falls, but it's usually April or the first week of May. So that's when it will be in 2019 as well. So Saturday, our final event is C.L. Taylor, Callie Taylor. She's, again, kind of a crime, psychological thriller writer, and that's at 2:00 at the library. She's her latest book is called The Fear, and it's kind of a young adult. So we've had quite a few young adult writers this year, haven't we, Phil?
We have, but like I said, it's one of those genres that it's expanding.
Yes,
there's a lot of people coming into it because they're the ones that are selling at the moment.
Yeah, but Callie has written other, more, I don't know whether the word to use is adult, but you know what I mean.
More complex and complicated.
Yeah, and
novels.
I've read her books, so I'm really looking forward to meeting her. And as I said, you can buy the books at all the events. Waterstones Wrexham is one of our sponsors, and so they have someone at every one of our events with the books of the author, so you can buy the books and get them signed. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter. Just look for Rex Carnival or Wrexham Carnival, and we're on there. And again, just go to the website. So that's kind of covered, I think, the Carnival of Words, and just a shout out to the sponsors and the volunteers, because everybody works very, very hard. I know the library staff are there. They're doing their jobs, but then they're there through the night as well, putting on these events for everyone. And we do enjoy it, and we're looking forward to next year already. And one of the things, too, is that we always ask the visiting authors that come to put in a good word.
Yeah, but other
authors
and publishers, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that people don't realise is that this is a non-profit organisation.
Yes.
No one's making any money out of this. It all goes back into the organisation to bring in, more authors and do more for the community.
Yeah, so all of us on the committee are volunteers, and but we do have a passion for this, so I'm really pleased to be a part of it. So we've been just chatting the first half of the show. We've been talking all about the Wrexham Carnival of Words, which is this week. We're halfway through the week. And the website for that is wrexhamcarnivalofwords.com. So if you want any more information, you can look on there. And we look forward to having next year's. We'll be planning next year's event. We'll tell you a little bit about that in future shows. But my guest today is Phil Burrows, and we've been he's on the committee for the Carnival of Words as well. But Phil is an author in his own right. So Phil, I just want to get you to talk a little bit about your sci-fi series and your children's book, and while you're wearing short sleeves today, I was going to say what else is up your sleeve, but metaphorically, we'll talk a little bit about. So go ahead and tell us about your.
I'm writing a 5-book series called the Manarian series. Book 4, the first draft, is finished.
Mm-hmm.
I'm editing it now. Really, really love it. The amount of research I have to do for these books is phenomenal, and that's the bit I actually really enjoy. Just going out there and finding some really interesting snippets to put into the book. The premise is basically we're not alone. Sam, who's the main protagonist, he is an ex-army soldier. He's a little bit burnt out. Seen things he didn't really want to see. Trying to find his way in ordinary life, and he comes across aliens basically in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
And then the story takes off from there. So he starts off in Wales, and it goes off into the rest of the universe. Varied. I try to make sure every book is varied, but there is an overlying story arc between the 5 books. I've had great fun, great feedback from people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loving it.
There's a lot of humour in them too. I really enjoy it. Yeah, I love Sam and the Doctor and Pat, and some really great characters that you've created. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've introduced a new character in book 5. I was only going to bring her in for a third of the book. I needed someone to come in for a certain scene, and when I was at a writing group, one of the women there, she actually loved the books. I can't say who it is, but she bought six books to give away as presents as well, because she loved them so much.
Oh, that's great.
So that was great. But she did say, she's a staunch feminist, and said, well, there's only one main female character. And she said, it's a little bit sort of male dominated. So I thought, well, actually, okay, I'll take that on board. And I've kept this female character that I brought in. I've kept her for the rest of the book now, and then she'll be in the 5th book as well. Good. So just even that out a little. So I do listen to people.
Yeah.
Kath will say I don't. My better half.
Yeah, no, you do. No, I find them really entertaining. And as I told you before, you brought me on board to publish the books through Team Author. I'd never read a sci-fi book before, so you were my first experience in the sci-fi world, and I really, really enjoy that. I say that genuinely. I really enjoy them.
Thank you.
So, here's to... We always say that it's about you have to write about 4 books before you start to take off and make any money. So fingers crossed that
absolutely
works for you as well.
Yeah, and I know what book 5 is going to be about. Obviously, I've got the overall story arc, and I'm pulling bits together now into my mind as I'm editing book 4.
Yeah.
So
you're making notes and stuff, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I discuss it with Kath quite often, odd hours in the morning. I go, oh, while you're awake. So, living with an author is not a great life, and I do feel sorry for her. So,
yeah. But she loves that part too.
She's brilliant.
She loves having input too, and she's part of our whole author community, like a main part of it, actually. So, Kath, we love you.
Yeah, we do. She's awesome.
So tell us a little bit now about the children's book that you've done, and tell us a bit, where the concept came from, and are you going to be doing any more?
Right. My child book is a diversity book. It's Emily's First Pet, but the series title is Emily and Her Mums. It came about because a friend of mine, she's a lesbian, she was in a same-sex marriage to IVF children, and basically she said, if you're an author, why can't you write a book that normalises same-sex parents?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. So the story is nothing to do about the parents.
Mm-hmm.
They are there, matter-of-factly in the background, just two mums, multiracial. Grandma's there, and one of the mums is ethnic origin. I'm not saying what ethnic origin it is because I don't want to tie it down.
And it doesn't matter.
No, it's irrelevant. And then lots of things. Emily's choosing a pet. It's all about her imagination. It's a lovely, lovely story. A little bit of a sort of how you should choose your pet kind of storyline behind it. Nice little thing at the end. And then I've also used a special dyslexic font.
Right.
So if parents are struggling to read to the children because they're dyslexic, it's easier for them. It's a specially designed font. It is an amazing font.
Mm-hmm.
And if the child themselves are dyslexic, it'll help them. So I've tried to tick as many boxes as I can. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have it translated into Welsh. It's been a bit of a hiccup trying to find a translator, but we've just been talking about that off air.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have it translated into Welsh because I've been asked by a Stonewall down Cardiff if I'll have it translated into Welsh, and they'll push it out into the schools.
Oh, that's fantastic.
As a diversity book, which will be great. So it's doing quite well. There are plans for other books
in the series.
In the series, but I might bring another one out next year. Just depends how the sales go. I want to finish my sci-fi series first. Really, I sort of squoze that in because
and get it translated into Welsh as well. So that's that's another section that you have to think about and get that done, and then you can.
Because I'm doing most of the work myself, because I can do, and I'm part of Team Author UK, which is who you are. So I'm doing most of the formatting of the paperback and all that myself. Mm-hmm. So that takes time.
Yeah.
But I also want to get my science fiction books written by Christmas. So I'm setting a deadline of the fifth book to be. The draft to be finished by Christmas at the very latest, because I want to start my next book after that.
Right.
I wrote a short story about a chap called Jarrod. He's a wizard in modern day society and the things he can do. And I went, I really like this character. So I showed it to Kath, who, she's quite honest, and she'll tell me straight, no, that's rubbish, or I really like that. She said, oh yeah, you got to do a book about him. That's great. His character is amazing. Yeah. And it was only a 1,500 word short story. I sent it off to for a critique, and they liked it. So I thought, okay, cool. That's my next book. So I've been also in the background of my mind drawing in little bits for that book as well. Mm-hmm. Just sort of making
very
little notes.
Active mind.
Yes.
So tell us. I want to talk a little bit about short stories actually, but tell us what your website is and your Facebook and how we can find you.
My science fiction one is under P N Burrows, so that's Philip Nicholas Burrows, and my children's book, because it doesn't fit in with the sci-fi genre or the other books I'll be writing under that name, it's still under P N Burrows, but it's emilyandhermums.co.uk.
Okay.
So
we can find that. Yeah.
It's very easy to find.
And so, and on Facebook, you're P N Burrows
/ P N Burrows.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's just chat a little bit about the short stories, because we were talking about the importance of doing short stories when you're a writer and all how it will help you. So
yes, I mean, I get embroiled and I just want to write my stories. I want to write my novel, and I get honed into that, and it's difficult to break out and then go and do some short stories for the writing group I'm in. You think, why should I spend 1,500 words on a short story that's not going to do anything? I could put that in my novel, but really you need to break out, because it's just stretching you in different directions, making you think about different aspects. You'll be writing about things you don't normally write about, so it's improving you. But then you can send them into competitions, you can send them in for critiques, I mean, you've recently asked for short stories for an anthology, so that's the second anthology you've done under Team Author banner.
Yeah.
So, you also publish because you got stuff out like that. They're great. I mean, short stories really do help an author.
They're great exercises to do to improve your writing. So, I was thinking that if you buy the magazine Writers Forum or what's the other one? The Writing Magazine, I think it's called. They have a list in there of competitions that you can enter. But you can also just Google them, short story writing competitions. Sometimes they have open-ended themes, and sometimes they're specific themes. So, but yeah, and you go to a writers group. A lot of people go to writers groups regularly because it just helps you with your craft, doesn't it? It just helps you to...
You will, if you don't go to a writers group, you will only ever hone in on the bits you're really interested in, and you'll never develop your other skills. Yeah. And then developing a skill you might not think is relevant now, 6 months down the line, you'll end up using it.
Yeah.
Because you've got that skill, and you think, oh yeah, but then you've got a richer book.
Yeah.
And
it's like anything, the more you learn new ways of doing things, the better you get. So it's just, So we're both champions of short stories or poems or, just anything to do with writing. Just stretch yourself a little bit. And along with kind of writing your short story, alongside writing a novel or whatever it is you're writing, comes the topic of writing your bio, so you need to have a good author bio, because if you're a writer and you've got a book, you should have your own website, which you do that through Team Author, but you also do it through your own company, novel websites, .co.uk.
Yeah. I mean, an author bio, we were talking about this off air again, it's extremely important. Not only do you need it on your Facebook page, but on your own website. But Amazon, if you've got books on Amazon, you need an Amazon profile, and that's amazon.co.uk and amazon.com. They run as two separate companies.
Yeah.
They don't transfer across, so you need to put it on both. But you do need to create this interesting sort of storyline about who you are, your experiences, how you write, what influenced you. Because I want to, if I read that and I go, yeah, I like that person, he sounds interesting, then I'm going to think your book sounds interesting. But if you sound boring, then I go, well, if you haven't even written an interesting bio, then your book's not going to be interesting. Yeah. So you've got to have a rich bio. Send it out to lots of people and go, what do you reckon? And if they say it's rubbish, and then change it.
Throw in, if you've got some reviews, you could throw in the odd little sentence or something like that. I know one thing that they do recommend is, particularly for new authors, reader, if you love this book, so choose like a famous, well-known book in the genre or author in the genre that you're writing in. So if you like Stephen, if you're writing horror, if you like Stephen King, then you'll love this kind of thing. So if you can kind of make a connection, because if you are a new author and nobody really knows who you are and they're trying to figure out, well, would I like this book or would I, so if you can without stretching the truth, if you can liken it to another book that people will have heard of, that helps. So they do recommend that you do that. So there's lots of, what we're trying to say is there's lots of ways of practicing your writing. So just writing your book is just step one, really.
Writing the book is the easy part. Yeah. And I mean, we always say that, and every time we come on the radio, is actually writing the manuscript is the easy part. It's the fun part. The rest of it is, developing it, editing it, having it proofread, and then getting it into a book and then marketing. That's the hard work. But I mean, going back to the bios, it's the author bio photograph as well.
Yes.
You just can't use something that was 20 years old.
Yeah.
So you look
or even 10 years old. I mean, make it current.
Yeah. Have a current photograph. You don't have to go and have professional photos done. I'm actually having professional photos done in May. Kath bought them as part of my birthday present. Gavin Priest.
Special birthday.
Yes, big 5-0, I'm afraid. But Gavin Priest, who's a local photographer, lovely chap, he has done a deal, and we get the full rights to the photos, so we can use them for whatever we want in the future without any comeback.
Right.
So there's no royalty issues or anything.
Yeah.
So I'm having some professional photos done. But I mean, not everyone can afford that, but stage your photo. Just don't take a photo take a photo off your phone because it's been taken in a pub. Go on a bright sunny day, because light, both Sue and myself have done photography courses. Light is your most important feature. You need bright light for the photo to really work. You can use your phone, that's fine, but a brightly lit area and an interesting background.
Yeah.
And it's just you. I don't want to see someone's elbow, or you're at a pub and there's a meal in front of you.
Yeah.
It's a nice posed picture.
Yeah. Or doing something that you love or whatever. So because again, it gives a feel for. So what I mean by that is if you like walking or whatever, because then it ties into who you are as a person.
Well, on my Emily website, my children's book website, there's a slideshow of loads of photos of me doing lots of different things, because I've done cookery lessons, I've done blacksmith courses, I've done quad biking, all sorts of stuff, and I put loads of photos on the slideshow just to make myself look more interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, there's a whole kind of, you're building a brand. You as an author are a brand. You have to think about all those things. So you know what? I can't believe that we're running out of time already. So thank you, Phil, for coming in.
You're more than welcome.
We did probably chat a lot about the Wrexham Carnival of Words, but it did deserve that, and I hope people will check it out this year and next. But I just want to throw something else out there. We'll just give you the website. We've got something called Indie Author Week. So it's basically a week where we're championing independent authors all around the country. We've got people from all over the UK are getting involved. And basically, if you're an independent author, we want you to look at our website, which is indieauthorweekuk.org. Yeah. And we're looking for guest blogs. We're looking for getting involved. You can see what events that we've got coming up, but it's basically a week set aside from the 9th to the 16th of June to celebrate independent authors, because all these other authors that have trade publishers behind them and publicists and so on, they just get on with it, but we need to celebrate and market the work of independent authors. So that's the week of the 9th to the 16th of June, and it's indieauthorweekuk.org if you look on that website. So that's it for us at the Indie Author Show. We'll be back in a fortnight. And again, you can listen again to us through Kellen FM. And thank you very much, Phil Burrows.
Thank you for having me.
And it's pnburrows.com.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay.